I want to start today by making a very profound statement I discovered in my exegesis for this sermon. Sheep are not as dumb as we think. Really? Look, I'm a girl from the suburbs, so I don't have personal hands-on experience with sheep. I have basically only known this one general thing about sheep my whole life, that they're dumb. Then I read a passage from a Lutheran pastor, James Lawrence, that made me chuckle, but it also made me think. He said, "We have all probably heard that sheep are not very smart animals, but that turns out not to be true. Sheep supporters claim that it's a rumor started by cattle ranchers because sheep don't behave like cows. Cows are herded from the rear by cowboys. They yell and prod the cows to get them going in the right direction. But when you stand behind sheep and make noises, they just try to get behind you again. Some cattle ranchers assumed that they were stupid animals, when in fact, sheep simply prefer to be led. And they prefer to be led by a voice that they trust. They know their shepherd's voice, right? And they will follow their good shepherd who cares for them and protects them. They are not going to pay attention to the idiot behind them yelling and screaming. Maybe they're not so dumb after all. And we forget the other half of the equation. In this Gospel of John, Jesus says, "I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me." Yes, they know the shepherd, and the shepherd knows them. I know them. I care about them. It's a relationship. Why else would they follow his voice? We think of being led as something dumb. It's how the word is used in our parlance, right? But trusting and following the one who knows you and cares about you, perhaps the sheep are smarter than we are. In John's gospel today, Jesus says, "The wolf snatches the sheep and scatters them." One translation of that says the wolf wreaks havoc. Wreaks havoc? Well, that's kind of exciting, isn't it? Do you find yourself getting caught up in the excitement and agitation of the havoc in our society right now? For me, sometimes it's hard not to do. So I ask it a different way to bring a perspective from today's gospel. Do you catch yourself listening to the wolves who howl and divide, instead of Jesus' example of shepherds who lead with relationship and bring us together? Whatever place on the political spectrum you may be on, there are voices screaming, right? Loud, snarling voices that we may or may not agree with, gleefully and purposefully creating havoc, using teeth and claw and tribalism and fear and greed and self-righteousness, creating an us and a them. Instead of being voices acknowledging that we are a diverse community of people and ideas who need to work things out for the common good together, dividing instead of trying to build relationship where I know you and you know me. Who is a relationship builder in our culture as opposed to a wolf who divides? Who do we give our precious ears to, our financial support to, or our allegiance to, or our tacit agreement to? And I don't mean instead of Jesus, the true shepherd of our hearts, but I do mean as shepherd figures in our society. I hear Jesus asking us, are we listening to wolves or are we listening to shepherds? So I ask it again. Who is a relationship builder in our culture, as opposed to a wolf who divides? And if I am a follower of the risen Christ, the Good Shepherd, if I'm a Christian, then that needs to be me. It's a big call. In this time of wolves, it is incumbent upon us to both listen to the Good Shepherd and to follow the example of the Good Shepherd. Throughout history, the gospel has often been used and misused to divide. As today, in Jesus' words, I know my sheep and mine know me. They're often used as a banner for, and that does not mean you, if you're not on board with my dogma, right? But no attention is paid to the rest of it. I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold, and I will bring them also, and they will listen to my voice, so there will be one flock and one shepherd. Jesus is here for everyone. One flock. The Good Shepherd builds relationship. We Christians often say we are Jesus' hands and feet in the world to do good works. Well, we are also his voice. What Christians say and do in the world can be the voice of Jesus, or it can be the snarl of wolves in Christian clothing. And throughout history, we've seen Christians be both, right? It's an ignominious history and present, no doubt. But it's also filled with blessed people and blessed moments and blessed movements. Where do we fall? What's the sound of us? How many times we can hear the father or the mother in the voice of their children, right? Every once in a while, within my head, the sound, though I can't put my finger on why, the actual sound or timbre of my voice will suddenly sound like my mother for a minute. And she's been gone a very long time, and it just lifts my heart. I'm like, that sounded like Mom. I love the sound of her. And then sometimes my husband or I says something and we'll laugh because it's exactly what our father or mother would have said verbatim. You do that too, right? Well, after many years in the Christian family, listening to the voice of Jesus, we hopefully begin to sound like him, to sound like Jesus, especially in a season when extreme rhetoric from every angle is fomenting terrible actions and injustices and divisions among us. The 2nd century Christian writer Tertullian reported that the Romans would exclaim of the Christians, "See how they love one another." Now, I like to say that sounds like Jesus, because it does, right? But come on, Christians were not the first people in history to ever love one another. So, if it was noticeable enough that it warranted saying, well, that sounds like Jesus. And I've quoted him before, but I love it. Our presiding bishop, Michael Curry, preached, if it doesn't sound like love, it doesn't matter how sanctimonious it sounds. If it's not about love, it's not about God, period. Do we listen to the voice of Jesus and show the world something new and profound in word and action in the way we love in this world? Because as Jesus' flock, that is our call. According to today's gospel, whatever belief we arrive at in this life will not come from a creed, but from the daily, hourly business of belonging to Jesus' flock, of listening to the voice of our Good Shepherd, thrilling and responding at the sound of it, and living with in the company of all the other flocks as the shepherd leads us together. And we follow this Good Shepherd's lead because he knows us. Faith is tuning in and listening to the one who knows us. That's what Jesus says in today's gospel. I know my sheep, and none will be snatched away. What a blessing and a comfort that is. We have to know to what and to whom it is that we're listening, and to trust that surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, right? And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Our 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. Has the shepherd's voice grown on us? Do we sound like him? What is Christianity at large voicing in the world today? And what are we as Christians sounding like? Do we hear his voice and amplify his voice in that din that our society and we ourselves can create? On May 8th, our Becoming Beloved Community Speaker Series is hosting the Reverend Dr. Pamela Cooper White. And the title of her talk and her book is Confronting Christian Nationalism: Why People Are Drawn In and How to Talk Across the Divide. That's what we want to be doing. Coming together, talking together, shrinking divides, building relationship. I commend this important conversation to you. And then on May 26th, we'll have Ken Moose. He's the co-founder of Justice Vanguard, and he'll be here for our Sunday forum, talking with us about overcoming racism in the journey to create sustainable and supportive communities. There are other good shepherding voices out there speaking to us as one flock. We come together in prayer, right? We come together like this, in this church, in this building. Some of you are wearing nice clothes. I'm wearing this. This is what we do. And it's good. It brings us together. It helps us to create a listening space to focus on Jesus, who can talk to us everywhere. But we come to bring ourselves into a preparatory place, to open our ears in a special way, to focus on Jesus. We are trying to hear and to gain strength, because when we hear his voice, the real way to follow his lead is to be that voice. So it's Good Shepherd Sunday. It's not just a cozy thing. It's a challenge. Rebecca Garrett Pace, who's the director of worship at White Rock United Methodist Church in Dallas, she paraphrased the 23rd Psalm for us with an honest nod to the challenges of this Sunday. I give you just a few of her words. Jesus is my shepherd, and I honestly feel sorry for him because I can be quite a stubborn sheep. I shall not want, or that's the way it should work, but yet I always want more. I'm working on it. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Unfortunately, he keeps talking too softly for me to hear him, so I keep having to guess what the right paths are and go on a hunch and ask forgiveness when I get it wrong. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil. Well, that's just wishful thinking. I fear all the time, all the things, so much fear. But I am learning how to sit in the darkness and open to what I might learn from it. And really, the most important bit is that you are with me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, and you tell me that there's extra room at the table, and actually it's your table and not mine, so I should scoot over and make room, which is annoying, but I know you're right. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And when the goodness and mercy are obscured, O God, help me know you're still there. Now I hear that as a prayer from the heart to the Good Shepherd, who knows us and our ways and our foibles and our yearning. And we follow his lead and try to emulate his voice and his action because he loves us. And fellow sheep, that's not dumb at all.